hello, hello. Welcome back to the Connected Wellness Podcast. I'm Rachel Ann. I'm here with the lovely Marianne, and we are so passionate about wellness.
Here in this podcast, we look at the ways our physical, emotional, and spiritual health is all connected and how we can take better care of our whole selves holistically so we can live our best lives. We're really excited that you're here with us on the journey. Welcome
Yeah.
to episode 36 of the podcast.
Yes.
Yay.
Oh my gosh, 36. Hello, we're here.
And you are with us, and we're so happy that you're here with us. And we hope
Yes.
that you've been enjoying the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're going to talk about goals and goal
Mm-hmm.
setting. So I think it's interesting timing. You know, it's not the beginning of the year, maybe when
Mm-hmm.
goals are like forefront of our mind. But I think that it's never a bad time to think about our goals, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, especially the seasons are changing, so that may bring new inspiration for us or motivation for us to do something differently. So it is never too late, too early. It's never a weird time to set some goals.
Right, or reassess, right? I think we'll talk about that as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into it, how about some wellness wins? What do you got, Rachel Ann?
Yes, absolutely. So let's see. My wellness win is very cheesy. I think my last one was food related, and this one is also food related. So I don't know. We're just really thinking about food a lot more. And so this morning I made this really delicious avocado toast, and it had egg on it. And I get really intimidated by cooking. I don't know if anybody else is like this, but there's certain things that I'm like, yo, I got this. I feel really confident about it. Cool. There's other things that may be really easy for other people, but for me, it's just really stressful. And cooking eggs can be under that category of unnecessary stress. But I was like, Rachel, you really want egg on your avocado toast? It always tastes so good. Whenever you order it at a restaurant, you have eggs, you have avocado, you have bread. You can do this. And so I did my little sunny side up, and then I flipped it over, and everything was great. Yes. And like it didn't spill everywhere. And then I put it right on the avocado. So it was like a little bit runny, but like mostly done. And I was like, yes, Rachel, good job. And so it was delicious, which I appreciated. And it also was me overcoming a fear that I have, which is making eggs.
That's so empowering, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Something that you were afraid of, you tried it and it worked out. Like, what else can you do? You know? Yeah.
Praise the Lord. So we are grateful for growth and patience. So that is my wellness win.
You know what's funny? One of my it shouldn't be this hard things with food is omelets. So kind of the same deal, flipping it and like having it not go everywhere. And lately my mom, she's a rock star. She taught me the trick of how to do it. And then when I did it by myself, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I think we had omelets every day for a week because I was like, this is so amazing. I need to make this over and over again. So I can't wait. Lent is almost over for us Orthodox, and I'm going to have to make sure I didn't forget how to make the perfect omelet. So thanks, Mona.
Thank you.
Tip. Yes.
Is it a family secret, or can I know about it?
No, I'm sure it's what everybody just does, but for some reason I could never ever get it. I just had to watch her very carefully of how to make sure it was ready to flip. I'll show you sometime, I promise.
Okay.
You're a Waba. She won't mind if I share the secret with you.
Yay, thanks, Tom. I totally appreciate the secret.
Yeah. I feel that this should not be stressful, and that's how I was with omelets, but
yeah. No, I low-key am that way with omelets too, because you have to fold it over, but I don't always like it to be so fluffy and then it folds over. It just feels too much. It's a lot. There's a lot of steps that go into it. So I think for us anxious people, that's something we have in common. Very simple things are just not simple for us anxious people.
Do we need an egg preparation episode? Is that a topic we need to talk about?
Yes. With Tant Mona, she's going to come on and she's going to just, have demonstration and everything. Yep. So it'll be cooking with Mona.
Yeah. That would be great.
I love that.
Okay. Well, congratulations on your
thank you so much
successful egg. Yeah, this morning. So my wellness win is not food related because, like I said, it's Lent and there's just no winning with the vegan food for me. I'll just throw that out there. But anyway, my wellness win is that this past weekend we got to go out of town and we got to spend so much time in nature.
Ah,
And
yes.
we
Yes.
basically went waterfall hunting, and that's me and Chris's new favorite activity. Like, we're
Oh,
literally
wow.
like, where can we go next for waterfall hunting?
Mm,
Because this area that we were in the Finger Lakes in upstate New York, there's a ton of state parks. There's just a ton of parks that
mm,
have waterfalls. I don't know
yeah.
why, what it is about the area. But yeah, so it was just so nice. Like, we really noticed how much it impacted our just like sense of relaxation and
Mm,
calm, to spend time outside, especially with water, and all of
mm.
there's like the trickling water and the rushing water. And,
Wow.
yeah, it definitely inspired a lot of awe. And I
Mm,
love when nature inspires awe. It really does feel like a spiritual experience. I feel like
yeah.
this is God's majesty and his creation. And so, yeah, it was really nice.
Wow, that's incredible. Girl, there is something spiritual about water. I don't know,
Hmm.
nature in general, yes, but like especially water. I do not know. I don't know. Maybe I want to do like a deep dive, like a Bible study about water in the Bible because it
Oh,
just like does
yeah.
something. I don't know, in a way
Yeah,
that like other aspects of
cleansing.
nature doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, definitely if you're talking biblically. But I did actually just read something about the
Mm.
sounds of water, that it can put us in this mental state called drifting, where like
Hmm.
you're almost like dazed, but in a good way. You know what I mean? Where you're like not terribly focused on like all of the thoughts maybe that are in your head. It almost like puts you in like a zone, where all you hear is the water and you don't have to think about things. So I don't know if that's
Mm.
part of it, but I thought that was interesting. I
Wow.
never heard that term, drifting, for like
Me
where
neither.
just maybe just kind of like drifting along the current.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, that sounds so peaceful just you saying it and describing it.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I love that. Well, I'm so happy y'all got away and I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy you're in nature.
Thank you.
We love that. Yay, wellness
Yay.
wins.
Yay. Yes, I
Good job,
agree.
team.
All right. So, goal setting. So, let's start with the basics. Like, why should I set goals?
Very, very solid starting point.
Yeah.
So I think in a previous episode we talked about what a goal was, which essentially is something that you want to accomplish. Um, And the reason why setting a goal is helpful or something that you want to do is because it can give you a sense of like purpose, it can give you a sense of structure and planning and all of that. Even though remember, as children of God, our purpose is through Christ, not through what we do. So let's make sure that we stay in that. But setting the goal helps you accomplish the thing that it is that you want to do, and there's a sense of fulfillment that happens after that that can help you achieve more things.
Mm.
So you can have a goal and you're like, this is really, really cool. Like I have this goal. Maybe one day I'll achieve it. Let me like go on with my life. But to actually set it and to like create it and say, this is a thing I'm intentional about and it's a part of my planning, my budget, my at my energy levels and my social wellness and all of that. You're really being intentional and making sure that you are doing the things you can do to make that thing happen. And I
Mhm.
think as Christians, we want to grow. We want to grow in Christ. We want to grow in our relationships. We want to grow and impact the world in a positive, healthy, holy way. And so having goals allows us to, it's one of the many ways that we can be really great stewards of the gifts that the Lord has
Mm.
given us. And essentially it blesses people and glorifies God, which that is our purpose, is to
Yeah.
glorify God and to make disciples. Very summary version of what it says in the Bible. So summary version, that is my personal opinion and in my life of why goals has been really helpful and why I feel motivated and encouraged to continue to set goals.
Yeah, I love that you brought in glorifying God and being good stewards, because I feel like otherwise sometimes our goals can feel empty. Like,
Mm,
okay, maybe I want, one of my goals is to reach another position at work, or,
mm,
to write a book, or to do XYZ. Like,
mm.
without having that, like, why, why do I want that position? Why do I want to write this book? It can feel empty. And also, I
Yeah,
can feel not so motivated, to achieve that goal. Like, this is something
yeah,
in the physical wellness space I've heard so many times. Like, okay, you want to get healthier, you need a why. Like, you
mm-hmm,
can't just say, I want to get healthier, period, or I want to lose weight. Like, you need a real purpose to keep you motivated, right?
yeah,
Because I want to, be able to be healthier for my children. I want to, be able to enjoy the life that God has given me. Like, I want to feel more comfortable in my skin. Like, there's so many whys that we don't encompass
yeah,
when we just say, this is my goal to be healthier. So, yeah, I think having that purpose behind the goals is like super important. Yeah.
yeah. The why. The why is, if the why can be internal, you get extra bonus points. And what I mean by that
Mm,
is sometimes our why can be like, well, I like an example you said, well, I want to be healthy for my children. That's external. That's still important. We care about your children. You want to be there for your children.
mm-hmm,
That's important. But with external whys, it can actually put on a bit of pressure for you, whereas an internal why doesn't really put on as much pressure, and there's more of like a slower, patient, graceful guidance that
mm-hmm,
comes along in you achieving the goal. So I'm not saying don't have external whys. Like, we are people of the world, we are impacted by, well, I shouldn't say we're people of the world, because in the Bible it says that we live in the world, we don't have to be of the world. So what I mean is we live in this world, we are impacted by other people, and we care about people, and we should continue to care about them. But if you're noticing that most of your whys or most of your purpose is externally based,
mm-hmm,
that's something to potentially examine,
mm-hmm.
because when stuff gets hard, it can be a little bit easier to not achieve that goal anymore, or stray away from that goal because it's an external based thing.
Yeah.
So that's my small little tidbit about making sure you have enough of an internal why to get you going.
Well, how would you reframe something then to give it an internal motivation? Do you know what I mean? So let's
Mm.
take that same goal of trying to get healthier. Um, okay, yes, it's good to want to be healthier for my loved ones, but how, like, what would the reframing look like there?
Hmm. Yeah. So reframing is my favorite, one of my favorite things in the world besides neuroplasticity. And essentially, reframing, it helps you to analyze the root of the thing, the value of the thing, and apply that with a growth mindset. So for this one, for example, the way that I would reframe it is, this person probably wants longevity.
Mhm.
So meaning they want to live a long life that is happy and healthy, because that enables them to be around for their kids, run around after their kids, see them grow up. So we look at the value and the why behind that external thing. That helps you understand and evaluate what the real internal value is behind that.
Mhm.
And we reframe that to say, oh, okay, with our growth mindset. So we say, oh, okay, since I want to live a life that is happy and healthy, that means that I will learn different ways to work out, and I will start to reach out to nutritionists to figure out different dietary things that are in alignment with my lifestyle. So that's how I would, yeah, that's how I would reframe that one.
Yeah. Okay, that leads me to multiple other questions. This is, sounds
I
about right. Okay, so
have my
first of
water and
all,
I'm ready.
yeah, first of all, the goal of, again, getting healthier, I feel like is too non-specific. So I remember
Mm,
talking. I want to say this is in back in episode 2 when we talked about habits. We mentioned the idea of SMART goals,
mm-hmm,
and that was an acronym, and one of those S stood for specific, right? So the more
yep,
specific the goal, the more we can figure out the steps that it will take to get there, or the objectives, right, that I need to kind of focus on. So you just mentioned figure out a workout plan, maybe talk to a nutritionist. So those are like the objectives that take me towards the goal. But again, the
mm-hmm,
goal of getting healthier is so broad. Like, what does that mean? How will I know I
mm-hmm,
have achieved that goal? Right. So
mm,
another one of the SMART words was measurable, right? So
mm-hmm,
I need something that I can measure. Am I actually getting closer to the goal, or not? So I think it's interesting because for me, I don't want such a broad goal that I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I want to be
Mm,
focused, right? But at the same time, I don't want such specific goals that it feels overwhelming, that I have to do
yeah.
this very specific thing and that very specific thing and that. So I don't know where the sweet spot is there for naming,
Mm.
these goals.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think a lot of people struggle with that. I personally do, which is why I have a love-hate relationship with SMART goals. Because for some people, it's just, it works. For other
Yeah.
people, it's like, this is too specific. You are putting me in a pigeonhole and this is like not working and I'm going to like lose my mind. I need some flexibility here.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh, that's me, welcome to the club. Essentially, so in situations like that, essentially what I recommend is finding a little bit of a wiggle room or some type of middle point. I would recommend first start with something specific. And then if you find that it doesn't work because it is too specific, then you can just make it less specific. I'd rather have you start too specific and find that it doesn't work and then back it up as opposed to start too vague, because the chances of you not accomplishing your goal because it's vague is higher than
Hmm.
you not accomplishing your goal because it's too specific. It's
Yeah.
easier to loosen it up. It's more difficult to get more specific, because when you get more specific, you are getting more intentional. There's more planning, finances, budgeting, resource allocation, and you're like, I'm not trying to do all that. Versus if it's too specific, you have all those things already in place. You just got to loosen it up a little bit. That's a little bit easier, seems more manageable and less
Hmm.
stressful to do. So that's one thing that I would say if you find yourself in that position. Another thing that I would recommend if you find yourself in the position where this is too specific, I feel too much pressure, oh my goodness gracious, is having some. This does kind of go with the measurability, but having some type of external accountability that is trustworthy, whether it's a professional or whether it's a peer, no matter, but some type of accountability that exists outside of you that can help you assess, if is this actually specific enough or
Hmm.
is this not specific enough, and they can notice from their observant outsider external perspective if you are actually moving forward in completing the goal. So we as humans, we are awesome, but we are so limited in how we're able to understand and view ourselves, which is
Hmm.
why having an external, trustworthy source outside of us is so important. And we grow so much in community and with professional support and peer support outside of us. And so having somebody outside of you to say, oh, actually, like, I know that you feel like this goal is too specific, but you're actually accomplishing this goal really, really well. What is making you feel like it's too specific, right? Because maybe there's a history behind that. Maybe there's just a specific stressor that you need to unpack. So maybe it's not too specific. Maybe there's something else going on, but we think it is too specific. So we're so ready to just make it less specific. I went really deep. So tell me if that makes sense, because I got kind of meta there for a little bit.
No, no, I think that makes sense. And I think in
Okay.
addition to having someone kind of tell you, are you on the right track? Or is this too specific or too vague? Is the reasonability of the goal, right? Because I think that's a problem for some of us is that we set
Mm,
goals or we have such high expectations of ourselves and we set goals that are honestly not reasonable. And not to say,
yeah.
like, I'm the first one to agree with you can be anything you want to be, you could do anything you want to do, and you should aim high, but like there are just
Mm,
certain things that are not reason it's not going to be attainable for me unless like I start my life over again. So,
yep.
one of those is being an Olympic athlete, right?
Mm,
Like that would not be a goal that makes sense for
mm-hmm,
me at this stage in my life. Maybe
mm,
it is possible, sure, maybe but it's not really reasonable. Like
yeah.
I should have been training since I was, a baby for whatever I'm trying to do to become an Olympic
Yeah.
athlete, right? So you know what I'm saying? So maybe we can,
Yeah.
just like aim a little bit lower. Maybe I want to play basketball on a community team, right? That's a goal,
Yeah.
right? That I think
It's a
is
great
reasonable.
goal.
Yeah. As opposed to saying, I want to be on the Olympic, team. All the
Mm,
women's basketball everywhere, that's what made me think of it. Like, I want to be,
yeah.
but so yeah, I think that's important, and somebody can
Mm,
help you, somebody who you trust, right? Like you don't
yes.
want anybody to like knock down your goals or your dreams, but
Right.
like, I would appreciate if I was like, I'm going to be on the Olympics and you were like, oh, Marianne, that's like awesome that you're really into that. But, maybe, maybe like we can aim a little bit lower, right? Like maybe pick up a
Yeah.
basketball, first and then like we can talk, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And
I think that's
it
important.
I think so too. And it does make me think about um like, we're not saying don't dream big. That's not what we're saying. But
Mm-mm.
what we are saying is being realistic is helpful, because let's say you are dreaming big and then you're talking with a trusted person and they're like, girl, I just really don't know if that's possible. Like, it's really hard to get into the Olympics. You haven't really been training that long. What is the desire or what is the driving force behind you wanting to be in the Olympics? I think is a really great question to ask. Why do you want to achieve this specific thing? Because you may be wanting to achieve that thing and it could be accomplished through another way, right? Some people want to be in the Olympics because they want to be famous. Well, I don't really know what to tell you. Some people want to be in the Olympics because they really want to like get in shape. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Let's really nourish that and support that goal. There's
Mm-hmm.
many different ways to get in shape outside of being in the Olympics, right? So I think it's worth exploring, because I don't want people to be like, oh, I can't dream. Please dream, right? Especially as like people of color, we've been told that we can't dream, that we can't have ambitions, we can't be excited about things, but we definitely can, even in this world that's not always so nice to us, but we definitely can. So give yourself that opportunity to dream, and you never know what's going to come out of it. And having people in your life to guide you that are not naysayers, but they're also not yes to everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why we have wise counsel. That's what the Bible says. We have wise counsel. So true, trustworthy sources, I think, would be helpful. So that's my little tidbit. Make
Yeah.
sure you keep dreaming, but
Yeah.
also
No, I
unpack.
agree. So I heard something that I feel like is interesting, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. So this particular person gave a TED talk about this. They were an athlete, but what had
Mm,
happened was their goal was to be like number one draft pick or number one round draft pick or whatever. And that was like their goal all through college or when they were playing football. And they did not get number one round draft pick or first round. I'm probably saying it wrong, but hopefully any sports people know what I'm talking about. Like one of the first people drafted, right? They were like sixth
okay.
round draft pick, which is still
Mm,
amazing, right? You're still going to play
mhm,
professionally, whatever. But they were so discouraged by the fact that they
mm,
failed at that goal, which was a very
mm,
specific, I want to be first round draft pick, that they said that their career like sucked because they were just so discouraged by the
mm,
fact that they didn't meet the goal, that they did terribly. But then this person, I don't know why, was offered an opportunity to be on TV, and they were like, okay, should I continue with my original goal of being a professional athlete, or should I pivot and take this
mm,
opportunity to be on TV? And they decided to take the opportunity to be on TV. And the way that they worded it is that they decided that I don't need the specific goal, I need the more general goal of excellence, right? That they were pursuing excellence, and they realized that
mm,
excellence
mm,
didn't have to be in the world of professional sports. It could be in the world of entertainment, right? That
mm,
being able to pivot like that. So I'm not sure how I feel about the idea of like being so open to completely shifting, what that looks like for
mm,
you. But I don't see anything wrong with having a general goal of excellence. I kind of feel that, in my life. But I thought that was interesting. So this person was advocating against goals, right? Against specific goals
mm,
because sometimes it can pigeonhole us, that if we are
mm,
too specific, we may miss out on other opportunities. And that I
mm,
can relate to. Like my education background, I probably shared it with you guys before, but the idea that I was like, laser focused on medicine, right? That's all that was for me from the time I was probably like 12 years old, right? And then when I
mm,
decided it wasn't for me, I was like floundering. Like I had no idea what I was doing,
mm.
and I feel like I
Yeah,
did potentially miss out on other opportunities to pursue excellence because I was
mm,
so pigeonholed. So I
yeah.
think it's an interesting idea. I don't know what you think.
Hmm. That is very interesting. Many are the thoughts. One thing that I'm thinking about is and I'm trying to like think about how to phrase it. Um I see what they say by like you're being too specific, so you potentially are missing out on opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about that from a faith perspective. So it says in the book of Romans that I forgot where in Romans, and I forgot the exact wording, but basically, God uses all things. He'll use all things that us Christians experience, and he will turn it around for his good. Essentially, what that means, in my understanding, is that everything that we experience and everything that we do all has potential to give glory for God. And even if right now in this moment I have no idea what is the purpose of this class or this why he went to football, or if you don't understand the purpose of the specific season or thing that you're dealing with, there's a really good chance God is going to use this for his glory later on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing that we can keep in mind, that everything we experience will be used. And that definitely has been the case for my life in my very interesting career journey, but also like in my personal healing and wellness journey
Yeah.
as well. So I think that's one thing we can keep in mind. I think another thing we can keep in mind is you can have a goal that is specific, and like have all your resources and your energy tuned into completing that thing, but also we want to make sure we're hearing from God, because we could be moving forward towards a goal and God is like, actually, that's not a goal that I have in store for you. You can achieve it if you want, but what I have in store for you or the plan that I have for you actually looks like doing something else. And so that's why having the spiritual gifts of discernment and having the wise counsel is really important. Having a relationship with God where you're able to hear from him, is really helpful to let you know that, hey, am I going on the right path or not? Because a lot of the times the goals that we do have, um the goals that we I feel like I'm like poo-pooing on goals, and I'm not trying to, but the goals that we have are usually impacted by other things and may not actually be goals that we want to have.
Mm-hmm.
So a really common goal that I hear a lot, from clients, but also just people in my life, is they had some really difficult experience and they want to make sure that that never happens again, so they do the exact opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that's not really like a strong goal. Your goal is to avoid that thing, but that's not telling
Mm-hmm.
you that you what you actually want to do, right? Like, so because I want to make sure I don't end up broke, I must become the CEO. Okay, like it's a great goal to make sure that you are financially stable, but that doesn't mean you need to be a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And also, have you talked to God about that? Does God want you to be a CEO? Maybe God doesn't want you to be a CEO. Maybe he has different ideas in store for you. So we have to approach our goals with a sense of humility. We still have them, we still dream them, we still think of them, but we present them to the Lord and say, God, this is what I'm thinking of. This is an idea that came to my mind. This is a goal that I am really jazzed about. What do you think? Does this align with you or not? And that can be really scary because we don't want to be disappointed, and
Mm-hmm.
we may not want to hear what God has to say about it. And we also could be really surprised, because a lot of us, especially as children of immigrants, we're like, well, I need to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or an accountant. Those are the options. And so clearly God is going to be happy with those goals. Maybe God wants something different for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't know until we bring it to him and we take away all of the layers of family, culture, society, finance, all of those pressures we experience, and just lay it out flat, raw in front of the Lord and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking about. What do you think? And
Yeah.
trusting in him that if he doesn't want us to go in the direction that we want to go in, that he will point us in the right direction, and that even if it doesn't make sense, even if he's only showing us the first step, not the whole thing, but just the first step, that he has us in the palm of his hand and he will walk through us in that journey, and we will ultimately be okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to my TED
Yeah.
Talk.
I love that you mentioned the Romans verse. I think it's 8:28. And we know that all
Mm,
things work together for our good, for those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. So that is so
mhm,
encouraging, especially like when we feel like we don't really know, what should our goal be?
mm,
Or again, if this thing doesn't work out, does that mean my life is doomed to be a failure, right? I'm not going to
mm,
be able to bring glory to God. I'm not going to be able to achieve, the purposes he's put out there for me. That those verses tell us no, that as long as we
mm,
surrender to him, as long as we let him do whatever he wants to do with our life, right? That it doesn't matter if this goal that I originally planned fails, right? But like you said, we need to work with him. Like, I shouldn't come up with these
Mm,
goals and then be like, God, here are my goals, right? Help me with them, right? I came up with them all by
mm,
myself. Unfortunately, heavily influenced by the world, right? That says I need
mm,
money and I need popularity and I need whatever, right? So here, God,
mm,
help me with them. No, I think he
mm,
wants to work with us, right? And I can share with him, this is what I feel, in my heart that I want. And we hope that he will work with us and reveal to us what is really the goals that we have. Yeah. Yeah. I like that you mentioned
yeah.
that. But you know what's interesting? I saw this meme and I feel like I could super relate to it. It's like how when we were little, right? Or even teenagers, what did we always say? Don't tell me what to do, right? Like to
Yeah.
our parents, like they were always telling us what to
Yeah.
do. But like I feel like the more of real adults we become, it's like, will someone just please tell me exactly what to do, like when to
Yes.
do it, how to do it? Because, like, when you really think about it, I have no
Yeah.
freaking idea, like, what I'm doing,
Yeah.
what is right, what is best. Like, God, just tell me what to do. Like, if you just
Yeah.
tell me, I'll do it. I'll be
Oh
obedient. So I just think that's so funny. But you're right. Step one,
yeah.
like, just ask. Like,
Mm,
God wants
mm,
to give us wisdom. The book of James
mm-hmm,
tells us that he wants to guide us. He wants to give us good things. The Holy Spirit, he wants to give us things. We just need to start by asking him. So I if we're going to have a
mm,
goal setting session, sounds like step 1 as Christians is to pray, right?
mm-hmm,
Right? Don't
mm-hmm.
don't even bother to think about what are my goals before I, ask God to help me with them. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And trust that he will meet you right where you are. And if you're going to be disappointed, he will be with you in the disappointment. He understands. We serve a God who understands what it is like to be a human being because of Jesus. And I think we kind of underestimate how grateful we can because of that. But I know it's hard. I know that it's really hard. It's hard to have dreams deferred, hope deferred. It's hard to have goals deferred. And it requires a real trust in the Lord to be like, all right, God, if you're not telling me to move forward to this goal, then clearly you got something good for me that
Mhm.
I just can't even imagine. So help me to believe you and help me to trust you that you have something in store for me that is good. Help me to get excited about it and help me to grieve this goal that I did have,
Mhm.
this dream that I did have that is not in alignment with what you've called me to be.
Yeah.
Um, I I wish there was like an equation for like how to like come up with your goal. I feel like one of the easiest ways to think about what your goal should be, especially again as Christian people, is really thinking about what is the purpose and then what are the skills that the Lord has given you to accomplish that. So for our purpose, for all of us as Christians, is to glorify God, then to create disciples. Essentially that means to like spread the gospel to people. And the ways that we do that is by the unique skill sets and personalities he has given us. So, I mean, yeah, you can evangelize and go on the street corner and like have your sign. Cool. That's a really direct way to do it. Another way to do it is to just be a Christian and in whatever context you are in, you just be your natural Christian self. And people will ask you questions like, oh, like I noticed that you take a few minutes to pray. What is that all about before you eat? I noticed that on Good Friday, you always take the day off. I noticed that you were really nice to that person in that meeting when they were really rude to you. People will notice that you are different. The Bible talks about that. The world will notice that there's something different about us because we are not of the world. And so the
Mhm.
world will be like, what's happening here, and I'm intrigued by it. So rest assured, if you're someone who's like struggling with purpose or goal setting, a really easy way to begin the thought process of it and the prayer process of it is by understanding your purpose as a Christian is this, and then your skills and your talents are this, and so your goals should probably be in alignment of how to like bring the two together and like live your life and smile.
Mhm.
That's a very light version.
Yeah. Well, this reminds me of what we said last episode talking about boundaries, that before I can even set the boundaries, I got to do some introspection, right? What are my
Yep.
values? Like, what is my mission, right? How do I need to kind of narrow down my focus, right? Like I can't
Mm,
be everything to everyone, right? That was kind of where we were going with that, with the boundaries talk. And it sounds like the same thing. Before I can think about what my goals are, I need to know myself. I need to know my strengths,
mm,
right? I need to know my skills. Um, yeah, that's an interesting point. So I want to
mm,
get like super practical and specific here. So again, when we talk goals, if you are a list maker, right, if you are very aspirational, right, I'm clearly describing myself here, you might like go off the rails and like just make like
mm,
15, 20, 30 goals that all seem like super important, right? Like goals for my physical
mm,
health, goals for my career, goals for my spiritual health, goals for my relationship, goals for my financial health. I don't know if I already said that, but like you might just have so many of them, right? And they're
mm.
all like specific and they all seem to be aligned, with what God wants for me. But that can be like so overwhelming, to like look
Yeah.
at a list of all of these things that like I need to it almost feels like I need to do better, or I need to change, or I need to be this, that
Mm,
I'm not right now. So,
mm.
like, in what areas of my life should I have these clear cut goals, and like maybe how many should I like focus on at a time so that it's not so overwhelming? Because what is the problem with New Year's resolutions is that it becomes too overwhelming and people give up immediately and they're terribly discouraged and they're worse off
Yeah.
than they were before they set the resolution in the first place, right? Because they feel
Yeah.
bad about themselves that they couldn't do what they set out to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, do you have any suggestions for that?
Oh, that's real, girl. I would say start with the area of wellness that has a need, and the goal that you have for that area of wellness is something that you are likely to achieve soon. Um, what I mean by that is, if you're new to setting goals, or if setting goals is really stressful, you need some positive, healthy evidence in your brain that says that setting goals and accomplishing them is a positive, happy, awesome thing, so that you want to keep doing it. You are likely to have that neuroplasticity, that neuron connection made, if you have goals accomplished that you can refer back to when things get hard. And so,
Hmm.
starting off with something that's easy and likely to be achieved and is realistic for you, will help you kind of like get on like the get started with that. I think another, on the other hand too, is I don't know if I have like a specific number, like 10 is too many, 1 is not enough. I think it's a needs assessment. So looking at your life, looking at your different areas of wellness, and thinking about what are the things you want to see differently in those areas, and then from there, what is the one that you want to start to work on, and know that you can leave the other ones to work on maybe months from now or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. I think really what it is, the reason why we set too many goals is that there's a sense of urgency and we're battling a deep seated issue. So, for the deep seated issue, setting mad goals is not going to help. I'm so sorry. Unless your goal is to go and get wellness support, then yes,
Mm-hmm.
please do that goal to address the deep seated issue. If you are somebody, though, that is just like, oh my gosh, like I do not like to sit still. I think we talked about this in an episode. The people like to do. So you have to have so many goals. The deep seated issue is that you need to sit down and learn how to rest and to be okay being alone and resting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I say all that to say, I think having a specific number could be difficult, but working with somebody who knows you, that cares for you, and can sit down with you. And this could be, yes, a professional, but it also could be like a spouse, a partner, a really good friend that you've been rocking with since like, third grade, somebody like that, to be like, yo, I just have so many different things that I want to be working on, and I don't know where to start, and I'm kind of overwhelmed about it. I think that could be a way to help combat that desire. And then also remembering you will have enough time to complete your goals. there's that sense of urgency. So it's
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I have to complete all these goals by the time I'm 30. Girl, why? Who said by the time you're 30 you need to have your doctorate and be married and have kids? Like
Yeah.
that's a common one that I hear, so that's why I'm saying that one. Nobody said that you had to do that. God did not say that. If God said it, then do it. But God didn't say that. So let's release that pressure off of you,
Yeah.
and trust that the Lord will give you the time that you need to complete the things that He wants you to complete. It's all on God's timing. Y'all, when we do stuff on our own timing, it always ends up badly. I'm so sorry. It just always does.
Mhm.
And that's because we're human. So trusting in the Lord's timing can also be reassurance to help stop the urgency that we have to complete things.
Yeah, that reminds me too, the sense of urgency that we need to, or we should, specify short term goals, like maybe middle term goals, and like long term goals that
Mm,
are like years away, and that way we can
mm,
focus on them differently, right? So, if the
mm,
short term goal, I want to think of some examples. Like, the short term goal could be to have, I don't know, more financial freedom, maybe, right? And the objectives could be,
mm,
okay, like I'm going to make a budget to rein in my spending. I'm going to see how I can, do a side hustle to make a little bit more money, right? Those are the objectives. And this is a
mm,
short term goal, right? And then your like long term goal along the same lines might be to buy a house. Right. So that's like not
mm,
something I need to be stressing about right now. Like think about the short term
mm,
goal, right, compared to that long term goal. So
mm,
yeah, I think that can remove a little bit of that sense of urgency, if we break
mm,
them down like that. Yeah. And then we are running a little bit short on time, but there's something else I read. It's funny because I read things that were like super anti goals, as I mentioned. And then I also read something that like in the complete opposite direction. This writer recommends that you write your goals every single day. I would say write maybe or
mm,
read. You don't have to necessarily write them every single day. Write on a daily basis. And that seems
mm.
excessive, but I do think it has some merit, especially if it's like
Yeah.
a really one thing that like is really on your heart that, is very, very important to you. What it does is it keeps it in focus, right, for me. And it allows me to kind of orient my life in the direction that's going to help me achieve that goal, right? If I'm not constantly thinking about what I want, it's so easy to just get caught up in the day to day, of my life.
Mm,
And it just
mm,
kind of gets thrown to the side, these things that I want to accomplish, these changes that I want to make. It's really easy to let old habits come into the picture if I'm not constantly
mm,
focusing on what I want. So that can sound a little bit intense, but I think that it has some merit for sure.
mhm,
Like it
mhm.
almost like an affirmation, right? Being able to see this
Yeah.
every day, talk about neuroplasticity, right? So I'm telling myself every day that this is important to me, and then I will act in a way that shows that this is
Mhm.
important to me, right? So
Yeah.
I personally would never do that with like 20 goals, but if there's like top two or three, that are the most important to me that I'm currently working on, I actually like that. Maybe
Mm,
not physically
mhm.
writing it, but having it somewhere, where I can see it, maybe in my phone, but somewhere where I see it every single day. And then I start the day being like, yes, this is important to me, and I will act in a way that this is important to me.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say this super quick because, and then we'll wind down. I see that approach being helpful for people who need reminders, who are like early on in their wellness journey or setting goals. Um, I see. I see that being helpful for groups of those groups of people. I could see that approach being not super helpful for people who are prone to feeling shame
Mm.
or pressure. And so I think this is where, like we talked about, self awareness comes in. Some of these things are going to be really good for you, and some of these things are not going to be good for you. Everybody is different. And so, you understanding how you deal with pressure, where your why comes from, how do you learn things, right? Especially for neurodivergent folks, there's a lot of issues with memory or issues with doing things the way that the world does them. So do what works for you. And even if it looks silly, as long as it's wholly and healthy, you're fine. So if you need to write it over and over and that's how you get excited and motivated and you're not feeling pressure and shame about it, this is a great way to keep the goal fresh of mind for you and it's actually healthy for you. Do it up. You can always try, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'd rather have you try and it doesn't work for you than you don't try and it actually could be something really helpful. So
Yeah.
I do love that suggestion, and I think for groups of people that could be really helpful. But we would love to hear from y'all. Like, is that something that you would like to do in terms of goal setting? Are you like, that's too much, Marianne, let's cancel that article? Or is it like, oh, this is really cool, like I could get the ball rolling here? So let us know what you think about setting goals. What's worked for you? What hasn't worked for you? You can drop them in the comments below. If you want to reach out to us with any topics or feedback or ideas, we would love to hear that. So you can reach out to us on Instagram. We're at Connected Wellness Podcast. You can also reach out to us on Facebook, Connected Wellness Podcast. If you are more of an email person, you can email us, connectedwellnesspodcast@gmail.com. If you want to reach out to me personally, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Real with Rachel Ann. If you want to reach out to Marianne, you can reach out to her personally on Instagram at Wabasaba. All of that will be link down below for you. So don't worry, you need to memorize any of those things. And I'll hand it over to Marianne for our closing.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to hear from you. And until next time, be well.
Awesome. Be well, everybody. Bye.